Okay, so I guess we're going to get started. So welcome everybody to the team panel. This is your fabulous panel. Let's give them a warm welcome. You are here to hear from them. And so this is hopefully to make unschooling and unschooling throughout all the ages a little less scary. So we'll talk today a little bit about the challenges, about some of the rewards, about the experiences, and anything that you guys want to know. We've got about an hour and a half, maybe up to 2 hours, so we've got some time. And you guys don't want to hear me talk, so let's just start off. We do have 2 older people on the group, and what I'm going to do first is we're going to start at this end, and I'm going to have each of the panelists introduce themselves, give us your first name, your age, what your background has been in terms of education. Have you always unschooled? Are you new to unschooling? That sort of thing. And then also share with the audience what your interests are. And we'll just go down the line here. And then we're going to bring, after we've got the introductions, we'll bring your questions. I've got tons of questions for these guys. And we'll just open it up to the panel and see how this unfolds. So why don't we start down with you?
That's me. Okay, my name is Justin. I'm 20 years old. I've been unschooling my whole life. And I'm a competitive figure skater. And that's all I do. So that's it. That's really it.
Oh, your age? Oh,
20.
You said it. You said it.
20 again.
Still 20.
We're still 20.
Okay, it's
a couple
been...
seconds older. But I'm
Yeah.
still 20.
Okay. Good. I'm Dylan. I'm 17. I've been also world schooled my whole life. Or unschooled. World schooled, yes.
Both.
We say world schooled because I've traveled with my
I've
family.
heard that before. Cool.
It's I would say.
I'm Spencer. I'm 16. Oh my god, I'm stuttering. I'm 16 years old. Damn. Okay, I listened to it too, and I still can't get it right. I've been unschooling my whole life. I think the only kind of education I've got is like little websites we went to on occasion. Those worked for about a week. And I like games. I don't do that much right now. I'm thinking about getting into animation though.
My name is Christian. I am 16 years old. I've been homeschooled / unschooled for probably about 9-10 years. And I travel around with my family, and I like to listen to music. That's what I do.
See, you got it right the first time.
You did too, Spencer.
There's no wrong answer.
Yeah. Oh, good one.
My name is Miro. I'm 17 as well. I've been unschooling, or world schooling, for about 8 years now. And I'm mainly into writing creatively, so fiction, poetry. I study a lot of ancient mythology, ancient history.
Judging by your head, I'd say you're pretty good at it.
Hi, my name's Dylan. I currently have blue teeth because I filed about 10 minutes before this and didn't think it through. I'm
Weren't
16.
you the one who had the underwear problem too?
We don't talk about that.
You didn't pack your underwear. You guys had to go buy underwear. Wasn't that true? Ms.
Commando. Well, if we want to talk commando, sure, but
Never mind.
All right.
Okay, edit that out, please. sorry.
He doesn't know I told. He does now.
I guess everybody knows.
I'll talk to you about that. Yeah, I'm 16. Christian's my twin. I've been homeschooled, unschooled, whatever you want to call it, since the 1st grade, and that's about it.
I'm Gianna. I'm 18. I've done pretty much every form of school that doesn't actually involve me entering a school. So all the other ones. I travel with my family. We do Irish festivals. I work for my parents, and that's about it. It's kind of all over the place.
I'm Tillian. I'm 17, and I've been unschooled since about 1st grade, half of 1st grade, I don't know. And I like drawing and animation and stuff too. Yeah.
I'm Dustin. I'm 22. Yeah, I didn't know what unschooling was until like a few months ago. So I scarred because of it. But,
And you're a
Yeah.
musician?
yes.
Okay, great. So the first question I'd like to ask the panel is, what do you like most about being an unschooler or alternative educated, self-directed world schooler? Whatever you like to call it. What do you like most about the kind of life that you're leading? And we don't have to go in order. We can go in order, but I would love for you guys just to jump in.
I would say I don't have to wake up really early. That's what I can say. Like if you're in public school, you have no time for anything else. So I like being able to sleep in, and I also like being able to travel and visit sites instead of reading about them in a textbook.
I would say that you have more freedom over what you learn, I guess.
Oh yeah.
It's not necessarily what the teachers are telling you to learn. It can be what you're told to learn, I guess, and then what you want to learn. So that's sort of a part for me.
I like being able to devote myself to the things I'm interested into at the moment.
Like drawing.
Yeah, and I wake up at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I've changed my hobbies a lot, so I kind of switch around, so it's easy for me to be like, oh, I'm going to be a singer, and now I'm going to be a juggler, or, maybe I'll join the circus now, who knows? Figure it out eventually, so I don't have any limits on how many times I change what I feel like I want to do at that exact moment, so it makes it easier.
And kind of like what they said is you have pretty much all the time in the world to figure out what you want to do in your life.
Any other answers? Because I've got another question.
I like that there's no pressure when it comes to just education. Yeah, just freedom. Just go. See where it takes you.
And actually, my next question comes pretty much from what you said. Those of us that are parents and those of us that came from the conventional schooling world, most of us have an idea in our head that education looks a certain way. Even those of us that have gone through the deschooling, we understand that we need to redefine what education means, but it's a contrast for us, those of us that have gone through the system. Let me ask you this. What does education mean to you?
I would say education is experience. Education is a set of experiences that you have in your lifetime that prepare you, that kind of make it easier for you to live your life and live your life in a better way. So.
I say education for me is anything really that you want it to be. It's something that you choose to do if you're interested in it, whether you like to pursue that, and I think education is going after what you're passionate about.
Exactly what they said.
For me, I think education can be really situational. If I'm thrown into a situation I don't know anything about, just being in that situation, I just kind of give it up and say, well, I'm going to learn now. Next time I'm thrown into a situation, I'll know what to do.
Yeah.
Now I don't. But next time I'll be fine. So I'm just kind of giving it up and letting myself learn.
Letting it happen.
Yeah, just letting it happen and learn for next time.
With this.
Yeah. For example.
I would sort of agree with what Justin and Myra are saying. Like, say you never knew how to make mac and cheese, which I mean is pretty good, so you want to learn how to make mac and cheese. And so you learn how to make mac and cheese, and then next time you're like, oh, I know this, I'm educated on it, I guess you could say. And sort of like you were saying, like it's experience, and so you're more prepared when things come up, so you're more educated in a manner, I guess.
Somebody's got to teach me how to make mac and cheese. I'm still working on that one.
And what about you, Dustin?
Actually doing things and not just reading them. A
with school is very much about not doing things. So,
Anybody else have anything else to add?
I think we covered everyone on that subject.
Yeah. Do you guys find that there is a difference if it's just words? Is there a difference in education and the word learning? Are they the same word? Are they synonymous, or do they have different meanings to you in your lives?
I think they're different, but I'm sorry. I think they're different, but they have the same result. You do end up expanding what you know.
Okay.
I would say they're in the same ballpark maybe, but I would say education, they're definitely different. Like education has more of this forced establishment connotation to it. You know, whereas learning is something that sounds like, or it feels like for me, like it comes more from within. It's more
actually remember it.
Yeah, well, you know, I would say learning is more of an internal thing. Learning is something that comes from within. Maybe education is something that is, you know, endowed onto you.
I think definitely like ways, pretty much, I don't know if it's meant to be the same thing, but when I hear education, I think like a class or, you know, actually just being taught something directly is where learning, I think of it more like, you know, your grandpa is showing you how to play chess, or you're learning how to ride a bike, or you know, it's more fun things. Yeah, experience, and not just like somebody kind of telling you what to do. Learning. Yeah. Like learning, I feel like learning is a more hands-on thing. Like you're actually, if somebody's showing you how to do it, they're actually showing you how to do it. They're not telling you how to do it and expecting you to come back with the doing it. You know, just knowing how.
Yeah. Alyssa.
That's great.
So Alyssa, you joined us a little late. Go ahead, before you move on to another question, go ahead and introduce yourself, and everybody introduce themselves with their name, their age, and a couple of things that they're interested in, and sharing what their education background is. That's the wrong thing. What has been your story? Have you been unschooled all your life? Did you go to school? You know, that sort of thing.
So my name's Alyssa. I'm 15, and I'm a musician in the band Hangman's Job, and I really like video games and cats. And I went to school for part of kindergarten, and I hated it, and my parents hated it. So I dropped out of kindergarten, and I think my parents tried to homeschool me, and they were researching curriculums, but then we found an unschooling co-op in Texas where I used to live, and then we started unschooling, and then I've been unschooled ever since.
Awesome. Thank you. Do you have any thoughts about what does education mean to you?
I'm bad at talking, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I just wanted to give you a chance because that's something that they've already answered, but that's okay.
Don't worry, I did just as bad.
No, you guys are awesome.
I didn't say anything about that.
I'd like to sort of shift gears a little bit and ask this group if they could talk a little bit about what it means to find friends outside of a school environment, and I hate this question. I hate the question. What about socialization? Right? You've heard that
Even if
before.
we get like more iPhones and stuff, when
Yeah,
outside.
right.
If you ever talk to people, you can do that without being forced to be in the same room as them.
Good point. Good point.
I would say, I know we talked about this before kind of, but I would say with social media now, it's so much easier to find friends, and specifically there's like groups you can join where there's already a common interest between people, so it makes it like 10 times easier to make friends, and you're not forced to hang out with the same people like many hours a day, every day. You can find the people that you enjoy being with, and I think that's pretty cool.
Sort of what Christian was saying. Like, I think in a public school setting, you're only limited to that certain group of people, so they're technically only like the only friends you could have there, I guess, because you're seeing them most of your day. So they start to become the people that you keep seeing every day. So eventually, like, you're like, oh sure, we're friends, I guess, but maybe you don't share that many common interests, and maybe it's just because you see each other every day. Whereas with social media, you can find common interests, like Christian was saying, and develop more friendships that way.
Definitely, and to add on to what Dylan was saying, I would say, like, as an unschooled, one of my greatest gifts was the ability to actually be able to socialize with people outside of my own age range. And I feel like people that are inside the public school system, they're almost forced to make relationships with only people who are in their immediate class or in their immediate grade. And sure, I might not have as many friends in the public school system that are my age, but I would say I have a lot more friends as a whole spectrum. I meet people from every walk of life, and I can be friends with them.
And they're actual people that you want to be friends with.
Yeah. Right.
You're not forced to be friends.
Exactly.
My parents and I kind of seeked out a few groups that are nearby that we have, like, even offline, we have friends online, of course. Like, Rose is like the best friend that I met online. And I go to this library sometimes, and I've met friends there, and I'm part of this LGBTQ group for teenagers near my place, and I've met a lot of good friends there too. So I have a bunch of places where I can meet unschooled kids and schooled kids, and from different ages and different backgrounds and everything.
I think it's really stupid that most people think that you can only meet friends in school, because the little bit of time that I was in school, I was like barely ever allowed to talk to anyone. Like, I would be quiet during lunch, and then quiet when the teacher was talking. And then even if you weren't allowed, or if you were allowed to talk to anyone whenever you want, you're trapped in a room with 10 or 15 kids your exact same age. So there's not really that many people that you could meet.
Yeah, I remember even when I was in school and in like recess and stuff, nobody would talk to me, so I just lay on the ground.
I think the age group thing is definitely big. I mean, I remember growing up having a lot of, I was friends with a girl my age and her younger siblings and her parents, and you get to know people's families as well. Like, I know someone, she started going to school a few years ago, and I met one of her friends, and I said, oh, have you met Kylie's little sister? She's so cute. And he was like, she has a sister? I was like, yeah, and 2 brothers. But like, they don't know that. Nobody talks really about she said, like, about their home life or anything like that. It's just kind of like all the people your age and whatever people your age are supposed to like. And then that's about as far as it goes. And I don't think very few people you connect with outside of school, after you leave. And I mean, not all homeschoolers and unschoolers. A lot of people seem to think we're all social hermits. I mean, I know some of us are, but I mean, we do leave our houses. So, I mean, when you leave your house,
You're here?
People. Yeah. Only when there's food. Definitely a good one right there.
Cool. So I'm going to invite you, panelists, I'm going to invite each one of you to think in a way that perhaps you may not have thought before for this next question. It's not that scary. I would love for each person on this panel to share an instance in their life where they learned from a mentor. And the mentor could be your dog, it could be your grandmother, it could be a neighbor, it could be anybody. But I would think outside of the box in terms of it doesn't have to be somebody who's older than you. So, but I would like to hear from your life experiences and an example of something that you learned from a mentor.
Give us a moment on that one.
What?
You have to give us a moment on that one.
Okay. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, take as much time as you need to think. If
I don't have
anybody,
to go first. If somebody comes up with one.
go ahead. Go ahead. Because I bet if you thought outside of the box, right, you would come up with some very interesting experiences to share. And it probably hasn't been framed in this way before, this question. So, does anybody have anything off the bat? Or should we just go down the road?
Right now, I came out of the box. It's just a big white space. I haven't had a similar experience.
All right, we'll come back to you.
Christian, how about your voice teacher?
Okay, I guess. Oh yeah, okay. Tell that. Thanks for the help. No. Okay, so I'd say since we travel a lot, we can't really go into like groups or like play sports or anything because that's mostly school orientated, and when you travel a lot, you can't stay in the same place very long. And so I like singing; it's fun. And we were going to Dallas, Texas, for a conference, and it was Pentacon, which is like pentatonics, and it's like all the fans come together and meet. And while we were there, they had a choir, and that was like the first time I've ever really sang in a choir or sang with anybody really other than myself or like my family. And that was really fun. So through that, there was this woman named Naomi, and she was like a voice teacher, and I was able to talk to her and get lessons from her just by traveling to meet her and everything. And it was really cool because everybody had the same interests, and we're all like like-minded people. I would say, so from that, it was just, I knew that she was a talented person and that I wanted to pursue maybe like voice lessons, and so I contacted her. Let's say, if that makes any sense.
That's cool. Thank you.
For me, growing up at a nice range, being a figure skater, I obviously have a set of coaches that teach me the proper way to do things. But just, the friends I make at the rink, I find the stuff that I learn how to do best is just us supporting each other and saying, let's try this and let's try that, and just taking the pressure off of the coaching environment, and just moving around and supporting each other. And I learn a lot from my friends, even if they're a lower level than me. Just getting their input and just feeling the support and stuff like that, and being on the same team makes me grow as a skater and person, probably.
I would say my experience would probably have to be from Project World School Family Summit last year, where we had 6 or 7 teenagers who were teen volunteers, and we were all running this kids camp, and we had 60 to 70 people, or 60 to 70 kids that we all had to watch over. And there was this one kid named Tully.
Oh God.
And Tully was like 4.5 years old. And if there's one thing that Tully taught me, is that you just gotta keep getting back up. Tully was a monster, okay? He fell down, he scraped his face, he did every possible conceivable thing. And he always got back up with a glint of determination and fire in his eyes. And just
get up and start running.
He would just get up and start running, get right back to it, and he just did not care. And Tully was a master.
Remember that.
Well, I mean, I can just go for the basic one. I can say my mom for sure. I mean, she just.
There you are. He has arrived.
You're about to pop that balloon.
You're tardy for school, Arthur.
As soon as John finishes, absolutely.
Oh yeah. Just pretty much, she just. I feel like she raised me pretty well. I'm doing all right. But of course, I went through like a phase where I was like, Mom, why are you the way that you are? And if any of you know my mom, she's
awesome.
She's awesome, and she's a little weird, but in a good way. But now, that I'm older, I can see where, it makes me feel more comfortable to do, whatever I feel like doing, because I see my mom, scratching people with her one long fingernail earlier today, or last year, you guys might have seen her at the dance on her back with her feet up in the air, just doing whatever she wants to do, and
Or disco.
she's just ready for it, and she does it, and she's always got $1 million idea, and I think inspiring to, you know, just be around somebody that always has an idea, just all the time, continuously.
Anybody else? Mentor. So we're talking about mentors, but the unexpected mentor, the one that taught you something that you didn't expect to learn, somebody that, you know, we're redefining what learning is all about. And as an unschooler, we can put it in our own terms.
Oh, I've got a great one.
Oh, tell us. Tell us.
The fan fiction podcast Harry Potter Methods of Rationality is as it says, a fan fiction about Harry Potter, but it takes it in a whole new realm, and it follows rationalist fiction, which is basically looking at the world through the scientific method of like figuring out like what you know and how you think you know it, and trying to analyze your own faults and be better than those. And I just like, it follows like a fan fiction, like a different story of Harry Potter, but also like just blows my mind in like scientific theory, and just opened myself up to exploring just not just science as like a thing you can do, but just as a philosophy in life.
Beautiful. And then since you joined us late, go ahead and introduce yourself. Give us your name, your age, and then something that you're interested in, and then what your your background is in terms of schooling, unschooling, and so forth.
Okay, my name is Arthur Velwest. I forget all the other questions. I have been unschooled since second grade, where I just was taken out in the beginning of the year. What were the other ones?
Age.
How old am I? I'm 20 years old.
And interests.
Interests. I really like sign language and improv. I really like improv.
Okay. We're doing an improv session next tomorrow.
I saw.
Next tomorrow.
Yeah, it was like next week, tomorrow. Awesome. Going back to the question about mentors, I know you guys have some really great stories. Anybody else?
I sort of have one.
Yeah.
It's sort of like basic, like the basic friend, mentor.
Sure.
But so one of my friends, or two of them actually, they used to be like super close. They were like the best friends imaginable. They were like, nothing's ever gonna break us apart. We're the best friends. I love you so much. We're gonna like grow all together and be the best friends ever. And so something happened and they broke apart, and now they don't talk to each other at all. And it's kind of sad, but so they don't talk to each other at all, and they didn't really do anything wrong. It was just like a misunderstanding, so now they don't talk to each other at all. And I'm like, but you guys were such good friends. Why would you just let something small like that break you apart? So they've sort of taught me to cherish like the moments that you have right then and there, and all your friends and stuff like that, because the second you know it, they could be gone and you never talk to them again.
Powerful. Thank you. Anybody else have something to share?
I don't know if I can call it mentoring, but I mean, I did learn it from somebody else, so I guess it counts.
Sure.
From my mom and two of my pets, one which has passed away, who they both had, or have actually, disabilities. And I don't know, we were talking about it once. It was my hamster Pip, which had grown like an odd, I guess it was a tumor on her leg, and honestly, it was big enough where she literally used it as that leg. Like that leg wasn't doing anything at that point. I'm not kidding.
It's a big tumor.
She'd still go on her little running wheel and use that as her leg. I guess she didn't feel it. I mean, she was still happy. So seriously, I would quit at that point. But me and mom were sort of just talking about it. I don't remember the exact conversation, but she mentioned how like with animals, even though like if that happened to a human, they could probably go to a doctor and get rid of it or something like that. But with animals, they can't do that. If they get a disability of some kind, if they lose a leg and somehow still survive, they just keep going. They don't mope about it, or they don't just complain and ask why their life sucks.
Right.
And she started saying how and it made sense because they couldn't do anything about it. Whereas with humans, if something like that happens to them and they don't have the money to get rid of it, to repair their leg or whatever happened, if they don't have the money, or maybe they just can't happen, they've lost that leg, they're gonna mope about it for like the next month, and they're just gonna complain and complain and complain. But if you can't do anything about it, then why put yourself and everybody else in a bad mood? My brother still has not learned that lesson. He'll complain to the ends of the earth. But when my kid gives him lemons, he complains about the lemons. I mean, at his age, I wouldn't expect him to do anything.
Your brother's on this panel next year. He's going to have a rebuttal.
Or maybe he'll see the recording. I told him about this. Like, if you're not there trying to fix it, don't complain about it. But, I mean, venting is good. So venting is always good, but continually complaining about the same problem you either won't fix or can't fix, really you're just putting yourself in an awkward position. So I didn't think I'd ever learn something from my hamster, but I did.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
At one point, somehow overnight, she managed to get rid of that tumor. It came back eventually, but we have no idea what happened because, like, we looked like in her little bed. Yeah, she was. Also, she was like after puberty, she got territorial, and I had to get her out with gloves. She'd bite me. But
She taught you lots of stuff.
But once she was out, she was fine. She wasn't territorial anymore because it wasn't her age. But
thank you
like,
for sharing.
Look in her little bed to see like maybe there was it drained or something, but nothing was there. No blood, no fluid of any kind. It was just gone. We had no idea where it went. It grew legs and walked away. But then it came back at one point and she continued to use it like her other leg.
That is a magical thing.
She was a very determined dancer too. She still ran at like full speed on her wheel. Cutest little mittens too. Like just her hands were white. The rest of her was completely gray and black, but her hands were white. It was so cute.
Does anybody else have a mentor story to share?
That lasted way longer than I expected.
No, it's cool. You're doing great. Yeah.
I remember when I was learning how to surf, I had taken a few lessons and it wasn't really going anywhere. And I ended up just going out a few times with a friend. And he just gave me a few pointers and immediately it was so much better than trying to learn with a course with a bunch of other people. It was
cool. Very cool. Anything else to add, or should we move on to another question?
Cow manure.
Care to expand on that?
In Wales, we were building Lainie, Miro, Dylan, Katie, and I were building a roundhouse out of cow manure.
Out of
And if
straw
you stick
first.
With it, yeah, and straw.
Yeah.
But if you stick through the smell, it'll go away and it will build you a house. So let that be a lesson in life.
Funny thing is,
in my office.
funny thing is, we weren't calling it cow manure. We were calling it shit.
The shit puns were endless and beautiful.
What about since you guys shared, your first question was, what are the cool things about being an unschooler? Why don't you share some of the challenges that perhaps you may have come across because, or in your mind because of this particular mode of education or lifestyle?
I would say at first people didn't get it because we've been like unschooling for like a while, and so I remember I had these two like friends that we met at a campground one time, and we were talking, and then she like came over and she's like, "My brother thinks you're dumb," and I'm like, "Yeah, right." And I'm like, "Why?" And she's like, "Because you're homeschooled," and I'm like, "That doesn't mean that I'm dumb." So I think that people don't really understand. Like it's gotten better. I think it's become more of like a popular thing to do. But some people just like don't fully understand it and think that just because you're different or that you're not schooled means that you're like less or not as able.
Some people would sometimes look at you like you're an alien.
Yeah.
Like just because you haven't stepped foot in a certain building.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah, sort of what Christian was saying. You like stole my answer. It's not like we're twins or anything. But yeah, so like some people, I would say the challenge is that some people think you're like weird or not as educated or you don't have any social life whatsoever just because you're unschooled. And I'm like, not really. I mean, I have a pretty good social life. Like, look at all these people right here. It's a lot of people. And like, I'm not stupid, so that's out the window too. So where are your valid points here?
Yeah.
But people are like trying to figure out why it isn't good because it's not a social norm, I guess. But I mean, it's pretty normal nowadays. So I guess just the challenges are other people really.
I guess for me it actually kind of goes to the other extreme sometimes where I don't get why people go to school. You know, like I actually have a really hard time interacting with people who have gone to school for their entire lives, and it's I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing or that's necessarily a good thing either, but it is what it is. Yeah, we do.
The math questions get annoying.
Oh,
Oh my god.
Oh.
Everyone always loves that one. 'cause
Oh, yeah.
It's a stereotype, but it's true. People will ask you math questions out of the blue when you tell you that you're unschooled.
Surprisingly, that hasn't happened to me.
Oh, I get that all the
Oh,
time.
yeah.
So lame.
It's usually older men. They're like, what's 2 plus 2? I'm like, you could have.
I've had a thing is like, even if I always tell them, even if I answer correctly, the time it takes me to answer the question will be the time it takes you to judge me. So I will not answer any of
Good
those
for
questions.
you.
Yeah, right?
Anybody else have anything to share about what are some of the challenges being an unschooler, world schooler, homeschooler, autodidactic, self-learner, self-directed learner? No?
I feel like that covered most of what I was gonna say at least.
I have one more thing to say.
Yeah.
I find sometimes that it's hard to motivate yourself to learn something. So say you wanted to learn how to write code or read code or something like that. So I mean, it's not that hard. All you really got to do is take some classes online or something, or go to the library and read a book about it. But sometimes I'm like, that's gonna take a lot of like dedication and effort and stuff, and I'm not sure if I have that much. So I guess it's also sort of a perk because you get to work out whether you're really interested in it. Whereas I guess if you were in a school, like you'd have more direction to learn about it more, but you might not be as interested. So, like I was saying, it's sort of hard to teach yourself it. I forget where I was going with this.
You're doing great.
It's sort of hard to direct yourself down that path, whereas sometimes I feel like if I was in a public school, they'd be like, okay, do this, this, and that thing, and I would, but then sometimes I'm like, when I'm unschooled, maybe I'm not doing it because I don't enjoy it enough to complete it. Does that make sense, sort of?
Yeah, and actually, I was going to ask a question that you could have. My next question was really about what you're talking about. So that's perfect. That leads me into the next question, unless somebody else wants to answer first.
I had another thing which isn't actually my answer. It's an answer I heard at a panel very much like this, except with not as cool tables. It was that when you become unschooled, you start to sort of like see the fabric of society and be like, well, if school is what everyone thinks is right, and I don't agree with that, what else do I not agree with that everyone thinks is right? And it's sort of like, it's a road you can't come back from. It's taking the red pill, if anyone has seen The Matrix. I know it's becoming an older and older film. It's terrifying to me. But yeah, it's sort of that thing of like, once you see the fabric of the world, you can't unsee it. And I can be troubling for some people.
Such a good point.
Really, very badly needed.
So, Mike, is it okay if we move on to this question?
I have a question
Yeah.
for unschoolers. Where do you draw the line if you're like interested in something and you're pursuing it a little bit? Where do you draw the line of when you decide to quit it, or when do you keep on pushing through? Because when I was beginning to learn how to play guitar, I didn't play for like months on end because it didn't really interest me. But it was like I kept coming back to it, and then eventually I fell in love with it. So where do you draw that line of when you quit on an interest?
I did the same thing with guitar. I started learning it, and I was like, my hands are too small. I'm not musically talented enough for this one. I give up. I don't want to do it anymore. Now I'm learning the ukulele, and I find that easier. It's not any easier than the guitar, I don't think, but it's just my motivation wasn't there at the time. I think it was. It wasn't that it stopped being fun. It stopped being worth my time. It was a nuisance for me to go to class, or it was a nuisance for me to learn my chords, and so I just stopped doing it. But then eventually the want to learn the instrument came back, and that's when I picked it up again. I think it's just when it starts being a chore, it's not, I guess it's just not worth your time anymore, and then you have to wait and see if you want to do it again. I mean, that's how I
think
work
that's a
it.
really good point though. Like once it stops becoming enjoyable, then you're like, okay, this probably isn't too much of a good idea anymore. I'm gonna stop there.
I agree with that a lot. It reminds me of like when I'm at work and like I really enjoy my work, but sometimes at work you have to clean the bathrooms. And no, but like I get this feeling when I'm cleaning the bathrooms, not, oh God, I hate working here. It's just like, this isn't that bad, like I like this place, it's really cool, I'll clean the bathroom. So I think it's that feeling of, even when you're doing the kind of frustrating part, you're still sort of like, this is a good thing. So it's more of a feeling than a certain moment, I would say.
When we were in Wales, and we had a wizard that was helping us build a roundhouse. And
He was a wizard.
eventually it got really tiring for us all. Like none of us really wanted to continue, and he straight up said that he was sick of it, and with colorful language. Like, do you think that it's valuable to be kind of locked into something so that you can see it through even when you are sick of it, or to have that more of that freedom where you can just drop something?
I think it depends on the something. I think, like you were saying about your job, it is about kind of saying, well, this part kind of sucks, but I know the rest of it's pretty good, so I'm just gonna do it. That's a tough one.
It's an interesting question coming from you, Dustin, because you're coming from a background of being in school and being told what to do. Basically, that has been your entire childhood and adolescence up until this point. And so you're in the process of de-schooling yourself. But it's a very interesting question because the good portion of this group never went to school. And so that paradigm of being told what to do is probably not as strong in their experiences. And actually, it leads into the question that I was going to ask, which is, what part does freedom play in your lives, right? Because freedom to learn, freedom to quit, two sides to the same coin. But how does that spill into each person's lives? Just focus on the realization that you do have freedom. You have freedom to do and pursue what you want, to find your passions, to quit shoving shit up a straw bale house if you want, right?
Yeah, I mean, locked in is a relative term. I mean, you could literally quit anything. Like, you have the physical ability to quit anything you want. It's more about what are the consequences of leaving and how much do I want the end goal. And I think as long as either you're the one agreeing to it, when you say, I don't have to do this, I want to be locked into this, or you're locking yourself into it. Like, if I wanted to learn how to play the guitar, and I found it very frustrating, but like, no, you gotta keep going, that's being locked into it, but it's self-motivated locking into, which I think is more freeing.
Sort of like when you're playing video games and doing schoolwork. Like when you want to finish a video game, you're like, yes, I want to finish this, even though I've been playing it for like 5 hours and tried 800 different times to defeat it. You want to get to the end goal, but whereas with homework, if you get to that frustrating part, sometimes, I mean, not all the time, but you're just like, that's it, I quit. I've done school forever, I'm leaving and becoming a hobo. And it's just, like you said, that sort of, you have to decide what you want to self-motivate in and stuff like that. Scary looking at me.
That was great. Yeah, anything else about freedom?
I would say you have the freedom to choose what you want to do. Definitely, because in school you're kind of forced to learn. certain things. And when you're unschooled or world schooled, you have the freedom to choose your passion and pursue it. And usually it's with like the help of a friend or like a parent or something, or it's just all on your own. And you have the freedom to choose what you would like to learn. And you also have to make the choice to commit to it and motivate yourself to complete it if that's something that you really want to do.
What if you choose not to, what if you change your mind?
Then, I mean, I would think you could quit. It just depends on how important it is to you. If it's something where you feel like you can quit and you won't be bothered by it, you won't think about it again, then go for it. You know what I mean? It's not hurting anybody. Quit. But if it's something that you really want to see through and it gets hard sometimes, then I would think sometimes you just have to stick it through to see the end result, even if it is a little annoying for a portion of it.
Yeah.
I think the lesson of knowing when to quit is actually an important lesson a lot of people in this world should learn. Like there's a lot of things that people keep going towards when they really should have quit a long time ago. And I think the ability to say, people will say, oh, like you quit? I'm like, no. I stopped doing something that I was not enjoying anymore.
Yeah, that's powerful. And I'm glad that you guys brought this up, because for those of us that are in the audience or me standing here that went to school, that need to de-school themselves, sometimes perhaps we get attached to the thing that our children commit to and then change their mind. And we don't support them because we have expectations of, well, you committed to this. I bought you a guitar. Oh, but I didn't buy his guitar. But you know what I mean? Or I paid for juggling lessons or whatever it was. And the interest changed, right? It wasn't a problem with their learning. It was their declaration that this no longer interests me. So I guess the balance between the parents' expectations. Yeah.
I do, and that.
Go ahead.
Because I just had, and I know the varying ages of the panel up here, and I do, and you know, aren't there some of the older panelists here who have almost transitioned out of with their parents, you know what I'm saying, and how that truly, how that has worked for them, because it is a transition if I were
Absolutely.
of an interest versus what my parents are supporting me in versus what I now have to fend for myself. Or yeah, I like that topic.
Yeah, it's powerful. I'm done with questions. Let's open it up with you guys with questions. Go ahead.
Sure. So, ma'am, this might be kind of similar to the challenges question, but if you could wave a magic wand at your experience as an unschooler, what would you change or improve? What could be? Yeah.
I get more money.
That's the only thing I want.
I'm content. I'm good.
Me too.
Happy.
Yeah, when I think about it, there's really not actually that much I would like to change, which I guess is a good thing, because if there's not much to change, then something went right. So
You just kind of have the world at your fingertips, basically. You can just kind of do whatever you want.
yeah, I mean that's
Well, your own world at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Anybody
Your own
else's,
world,
they're gonna have to hit you back.
Maybe I kind of live in the middle of nowhere, so maybe live closer to more resources, but that's kind of a more personal thing than unschooling thing in general. Yeah.
I live in a big city, and I still find it like I had to go to another big city to find people and resources, so I can relate, which is my answer too.
Like, what do you mean when you say resources and people? Like, what kind of people and resources?
Well, for example, I live in Jersey City, and I could not find, growing up, a very good homeschooling community that I could be a part of. Most of them are sort of in central Jersey, which is really far from me. But Nichia, which is the New York City homeschooling community, I could take the train quickly to there, and they were much closer. But it still meant that all my resources and friends were literally a state away, which is not that far compared to like where else it could be, but it still was trouble, because it always took me a long time going to the closest thing.
I live in a town called Norton. No one's ever heard of it.
I have now.
It's a nice name.
Not really.
Anybody else have another question? Fabulous audience.
I had an answer for that question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The only one you didn't ask about.
I'm
I think
sorry.
one thing I would change is people's minds about school.
Yeah.
To have more.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I would probably say more physical community. Like, understandably, like, yeah, you can achieve community to a certain extent online, but it's really not the same as having people around you. People that are interested in the same things that you're interested in. People that can support you in your learning. And we travel a lot. We travel permanently. Actually, we're homeless, basically, and just go around the world. So realistically, I don't think even a magic wand could fix that. I don't think having like a community that would travel with you would ever work.
Be fun though.
Circus.
Yeah.
Which would be awesome. We have a lot of jugglers here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would work.
That would work.
I don't want to get political with you.
Get it.
Let's go.
But let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
It is 2016, and there's a election here in the United States.
Oh, boy.
Some of you may actually be able to vote, which some of you on that panel are actually able to vote, and I would be very interested.
My answer is, even if I could vote, I would not vote. I would remove myself 100% from
the
that.
United
I want to
States
be as
election
far
in the
away from
United
that
States.
process as I physically can be.
Yeah, regardless if they can vote or not, their lives are going to be affected one way or
Very
another
much
by
so,
the
definitely.
outcome.
Yeah, by the outcome of this political election.
I have a question though, Myro.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you like? I don't want to attack you right now.
Right, no, go ahead.
I don't want to be rude, but why would you rather not vote? I guess. I mean, it's a bad question. But
I would say
would you
just-
go for like the lesser?
No, I would
evils?
not. No. Lesser two
Because they're
evil
both
voting.
evils.
Lesser two evil voting leads to voting in evil. I would say, in good conscience, I can't support either of them. Therefore, neither shall receive my vote. It's that simple.
I'm not voting either. I feel the same way. I know everybody has different opinions on it, but I believe that no matter who we vote for, I think first of all, I do think that in a way our president's already been chosen for us.
I would agree.
Depending on what we vote, and I think the president's kind of the face of what's happening. I don't think the president runs as much of our government as we think he or she does.
A lot of people seem to treat they're going to be kings in this place, but really they're just the top of the government. That's it.
They're a face.
Yeah, an actor. Almost.
They're 1/3 figurehead.
Figurehead, yeah.
Good question. Were there any other answers to this question? Go ahead.
I live in Canada again,
I moved.
and our prime minister was chosen not too long ago, and he's pretty cool.
Hey, was it your parents that picked us up?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you got cool parents. You got cool parents. Oh, cool. And Katie, you had a question?
It wasn't really a question. It's okay.
It was a declarative statement.
Yeah, like what you guys are saying about how, it doesn't really matter voting wise, because it really doesn't. Bernie was removed by, he was removed even before the votes were in. So I'm glad you guys, at least noticed that, because some people still think it's up to the people, but it's really not. It's not.
We get it.
You guys are quite savvy and informed, and I think there's a big difference between you guys and the ones that are going to school right now. I think so.
Because they're being taught in school.
They're being
that they have to vote.
perhaps indoctrinated. Any other questions from the audience? Yes.
With the recent experience here in Chelsea just the other day, there was an explosion, and it brought back a lot of feelings for New Yorkers. What would you say? How would you like to see the next couple years change for you guys in that, or what is your personal experience as teens or young teens in regards to your feelings on that?
On the explosion?
Huh?
On the bomb?
On
I shouldn't say that.
explosions in general?
Controlled explosions.
You mean kind of like
Is our world shaping up are we fear driven, or do you, thank you for directing me, are you fear driven, or are you non-fear driven?
I am non-fear driven, but I believe that the world as a whole is fear driven. I would say a lot of events are shaped up to be a lot more than what they were. They're given names and they're given labels, almost to, socially engineer people to fear another group of people in a certain way. I think that there's a lot more pulling of strings behind every event that you can ever see.
And they capitalize off of it.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, like in Chelsea, there's been a lot of fear over it, but there's been 0 deaths because of that explosion.
I would think though that with life, you have to have at least a little bit of fear in it, because if you're 100% fearless, sure, that's great, but it could end up getting you killed or something. I mean, that's a big chance, but
no, you can be fearless. You just have to be cautious. Caution don't require
Exactly.
fear.
I think being fearless is different than, like, of course, obviously, all humans have instinctual fear. We're animals. That's how we've gotten this far. We have instinctual fear. Instinctual fear is different than, fear mongering. It's different than having a fear-based mindset, something that changes how you perceive the world.
I have a question.
For them or for the panel?
Oh, for everyone.
Okay.
Everyone in the entire
What's
room.
the shoe situation in this place?
Shoes.
Like shoeless situation.
you can wear it in like the room, but you have to wear it in like the restaurant.
You have to wear shoes in this area?
In the restaurant lobby area.
In the common areas.
Common areas, public areas, you have to have shoes on, like any. Yeah.
You kind of started asking this question, but what are your plans for the next, how many years should we say? 5 years. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I don't like to plan that far ahead.
So why don't we start down here? You guys answer.
And I don't mean physically, I mean in any way you want to answer the question.
Who would do that?
Well, I think it's definitely different for everybody. Not everybody's on the same path. College is going to jump around a lot. If I wanted to pursue the higher education and do all that stuff, and I mentioned earlier, I'm an athlete. And that's what I've been dedicating 10 years of my life to. So I have to I can't do everything all at once. So for me, I think I'm really just going to wing it. I'm going to wing the next 5 years and just kind of see what happens, because I've kind of planned a lot up to this point. And so I don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 years, and I'm okay with that.
Are we going in order?
We're going down the road.
Yeah.
We're going alphabetically.
Let's go by shoe size.
Well, I would think so.
So in 5 years, I'll be 21. By that point, I'd like to have a job. But I wouldn't like to have a normal, regular 9-to-5 job, because that's boring and requires too much of my time. So I'd like to be doing something that I enjoy, that also I could possibly do from home or where I'm comfortable, because some of the jobs that are going to be around in 5 years haven't even been created yet. So in 5 years, I'd like to start supporting myself. If a job I want requires college, then yeah, I'll go to that. But right now, I don't really see the need for it to become smarter. Really, so far what I've learned is all you do is go to parties, get wasted, and eat. So in 5 years, I'd like to be happy, have a job, and stay alive.
I guess I'd like to see myself in some remote area of the planet, just exploring. And I guess in terms of a job, I guess whatever would allow me to be able to do that.
I have a lot of plans, but I have no idea how long it's going to take to do any of them. So better than now, I guess. That's where I see myself.
I would say I have no clue at all.
It's not bad.
Yeah, I plan it mostly just like a day at a time, a week at a time, and a month at a time, and trying to plan 5 years ahead and see where you're going is really hard. I would say so much can change in between even 1 year. Yeah, like in between just even 1 year, so much can change. So I think in 5 years, there's so many different things that can happen that it's just kind of unpredictable. But really, I would hope to be doing something that I'm passionate about, and all I'm hoping for.
Yeah, my answer is basically the same as his, doing something that I'd like to be passionate about. Or I would like to do something that I'm passionate about. And for me, that probably means I'll be bumming around the world somewhere, playing music, writing poetry, meeting people, living my story. Hopefully that's it. But I don't really know much more than that.
My answer to the question.
You can have the bomb.
Awesome. 5 years, yeah. I think you guys said it best, which is just it's hard to know in 5 years. Also, the maybe college thing, depending on what I want to do. I do see myself as like in that college trying to figure it out way, and like all I've heard about college is it's a thing to go to get better at a thing, and I'm like, I'm going to use the time I have now to figure out very specifically what I want to do, and then if it needs college, I will go to that. So, but I think it's dumb to go to college to figure that out when I think it's supposed to be very narrow on what you are trying to achieve. It seems like the opposite.
Because you don't really need to go to college to figure out what you want to do. Like you can do that now. So like you were saying, once you have figured out if you need to.
Exactly. Yeah. Although college is expensive, so.
5 years. That is a long time for me to overthink a lot of things. And I'm very good at it. And I will do that. I know I will. I tell myself I won't. But I'll overthink what I want to do in the next 5 years, probably once a day. But in reality, I'm probably just going to keep doing what I'm currently doing. I feel like the direction I'm going is it's good for me. And I hope to be, living on my own somewhere, probably with a cat. Just having the free time to do the things that I enjoy doing, having a job that allows me to do those things, and probably traveling on and off occasionally, and that's the current dream. So if I can get there in 5 years, then that'd be pretty good.
I feel like recently, because I'm 17, I've been starting to think about what I want to do with my future a little more often, and I feel like I'll always have family to fall back on, so in 5 years I have time to experiment with things and see where I'm just going to go with the flow with it and flow with it, go with the flow and see where I end up. I'm not planning much. I just want to be able to do what I like and see where I go. Yeah, somebody else talk.
I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to do with the next 5 years of my life.
End of story.
I'm definitely not going to college because it's expensive and nothing I want to do requires a college degree. And I might travel, like full-time travel in an RV.
With cats.
And I might not, because the band that I'm in, I would need to practice with them a lot and have gigs and stuff, and they don't really want a full-time travel. So I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah, I don't have a plan either. I'll be 27 in 5 years.
Good luck.
It's just more with like my passions and whatnot, because I feel like that's been kind of lacking. I'm just trying to figure out like what I like to do now, and then get good at it. So I'm really working on that.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
When the time comes, and if you guys choose to have children, are you going to unschool?
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Resounding yes. Okay.
I would also say it kind of depends on what your kid wants to do as well. So if they really hate it, then you take them.
Well, obviously.
Yeah. So
That's a part of
you
That's
have to
part
force
of
them to do it.
homeschooling, yeah.
Yeah.
If they really want to go to school and see for themselves what that's like, then you can't hold them back. But
Well, I mean, you could.
You know,
That would like force all us to be unschooling. Are you unschooled if you're forcing your child to be unschooled?
Like my sister and I have been unschooled for a very long time, and she wanted, like one day she's just like, I want to try public school. She did, and 4 days later she was out.
All of my siblings have done that, including me.
I'm not surprised.
And we all failed.
Yes.
So we have another question back here.
Yeah, hi. Oh, wow. It's kind of a specific question, so hopefully everybody can gain something from it. Anyhow, our daughter is 4 years old, and she's an only child. So first of all, it's really amazing, like, being here and hearing all of you speaking, because I'm just, like, imagining my daughter as a teenager in the future, and this is, like, a really good place to imagine her being. So thank you for doing this. But my question is more specific to the fact that she's an only child, and I'm wondering if there are any other only children up here. Just
I was for like 4 years.
just one, two. Well, I'm just kind of wondering what specific things being an only child were a challenge with unschooling, because that's one of our big fears, is that, you know, she's like unschooled, only child, and an introvert, and we're kind of like, how do we do that, and what does that look like?
Same, and a
Introverts, you
traveler.
definitely let them do their own thing. Pushing an introvert is not a great idea.
Yeah.
To think about that one. I mean,
Introverts are loud on the inside.
Well, yeah, I was only a child, and I was, I think it wasn't as isolating looking back as I thought it was at the time, because I always did have hobbies and things I was interested in where I met people, and you know, I don't think that it was particularly, for me anyway, different than if I had a sibling. I probably got a little bit more exclusive attention because there was nobody else to distract from me. I did not mind. But yeah, no, I don't think the only child mixed with the unschooling thing really affected me that much.
yeah, I can't really say, just because I've obviously never had siblings, so I couldn't tell you what it would be like without them. I think a way to phrase this question so everybody else could answer it would be, people with siblings, like, how would your unschooling experience have been different without your siblings? You know, because I can't really answer
Yeah, we
that
don't
question.
know.
I've never had siblings.
I wouldn't say it would be that different. There'd be pros and cons, but I don't think it would really affect me as a person, or you know, it wouldn't affect my lifestyle.
So we're twins, that's why we both talked at the same time. It would definitely be a little bit different, not like extremely different, because you'd still be able to do like all the math and homework and all that stuff you need to do. But sometimes when I'm having trouble with him or with when I'm having trouble with the work, I ask Christian. I'm like, hey, help me with this. So that sort of helps me. But I think without him, I just ask one of my parents, and I'd be like, hey, what's this? And then they could help me with that. And then there's also a bunch of online material, so that could help you too. So I think without it, it'd be a little bit lonelier, but I mean, not too bad.
I would say without Dylan, I might be a little less shy because every time I go to like a social function or something, I'm like, Dylan, go talk to them. Like I'm like, you do it, and then he'll go and like introduce himself, and then I'll like slide in.
Is the question how would I be different without my siblings, or how would my unschooling experience be different?
Both.
Yes.
Because I am so surprised by all these like vague answers. Because, well, my best friend, we've known each other for 4 years, and we see each other like maybe once a week, sometimes less. And I am a drastically different person because of him. In a better way, but like drastically different. My brothers I've known for 20 years and 17 years. They have like even more so changed who I am as a person. It would be hard, but there's so many different things passing my brain of how I would be different because of my brothers. Like I would definitely, like my older brother taught me how to like stand up for myself, and my little brother taught me how to be nicer and how to be patient with people, and just like so many things. Like, oh, I would be
To be fair, I went a while without my brother, so I have reason to not really know what my life would be like without him.
I would say, also being a parent to a single child, there are challenges with multiple kids, there are challenges with just a single child, and it just happens to be their path. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just a different set of circumstances. And you'll overcome them. You'll overcome them as a family, and you'll overcome them, and it'll make your daughter stronger, and it'll make her
Physically stronger.
she'll do more push-ups. I mean, there's not one formula for a happy life. We just all have our own paths that are all so unique and different, just as each one of these guys are so unique and different.
Were you, I'm Justin's mom, dad, so with a single child. Were you talking in relation to your unschooling, you only have the one child, in terms of getting her with other, kids, stuff like that? Is that where you were coming from? Or?
Well, I guess I'm just kind of like, I don't know any unschooled children and unschooled teenagers in our community, so I'm just kind of wondering what it looks like with that kind of family setup where it's just an only child. It's just, I read so much about unschooling and I see all this stuff, and it usually includes families with multiple children, and so I was just kind of hoping for perspective from like the viewpoint of an only child, because it seems like something that is not as common in what I've been reading and seeing, and the resources I've found so far seem really focused on families with multiple children, and so I'm just kind of wondering from their perspective what it's like.
Well, for us, he didn't know anyone, we didn't know anyone who also unschooled. Mostly we were with homeschool, kids. And, he just kind of blended in, but they didn't get the part that he didn't have to do school, and his homeschools also had to do curriculum, it's just their own variation of it. So we kind of just really didn't make it a big deal if people ask questions. We talk about unschooling and everything, so he kind of just fit in, with whatever group he was in, and, get to know all of them. It wasn't really an issue that he didn't have a sibling.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Or
Yeah,
is that
well, I
kind of where
guess,
you're going
I
from?
mean, kind of part of that you guys have talked about a little bit already is, I think that it is kind of common that unschoolers kind of get thrown in with homeschoolers and homeschool groups. And I guess with Margot being an only child and being an unschooler mixed in with all these homeschoolers, like she doesn't really have that built-in community of her siblings to like say like, hey,
have support.
Like,
No, I
you're
totally get what you're
different
going.
than everybody else, like having that.
So the only unschooler doesn't do what all the others are doing, doesn't have a sibling to say, I'm not alone here, I have a sibling who is also unschooled. Yeah, I mean.
Come to more conferences.
I would say that just because someone has siblings doesn't mean that they will support you or also be great examples of why unschooling should be done. So it really depends on the person.
Well, yeah, with me, me and my brother both try to avoid each other in social settings because we'll just nag at each other a little just to make the other seem a little worse to whoever they're talking to. I try not to, but then he does something, maybe by accident or on purpose, that sort of ticks me off, and then if I fire back in the slightest, then it turns into an argument. We both look like total douches.
He doesn't like when I hit him in public.
Yeah, I'm
Small one doesn't even go out in public.
I have a gnawing question. Not to get political again, but
Oh, get it.
I'm gonna. It breaks my heart that most of you are saying, and I totally get why, that like, hey, I don't want to vote. I get it. Our system is broken, and like Bridget said, Bernie was voted in and then voted out. But
Katie said that.
I'm sorry, Katie.
It's okay.
They look
We both
similar.
have red hair, it's okay.
So I guess my question is, how do you guys feel? The system is broken, obviously. How can you make the difference in our country by not participating? Like, it's not even a voting issue. It's more of how are you going to make a difference in the world? Do you feel that you can, or do you just feel you have to walk your own path and not worry about everything else that's going on, or do you feel that there's something you can contribute to change the craziness of it?
I lean more towards walk your own path, live your own life the way you want to be living it. Like, if you're my personal opinion when it comes to politics is like, you know, I don't want to be living in a nation and under a government that, you know, kind of controls me. It's kind of an oppressive thing. I feel like if I remove myself from that and I choose to walk my own path, that's how I make a difference. By, you know, making a difference in my own life. By being the one who holds the reins of my own life.
But do you feel there's a possibility to change any of what's going on, or is that out of
That's
your
how
control?
that's how I will make a
That's how you'll
difference.
do it, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think it is.
can make a huge difference in many people's lives.
And I can also make a huge difference in my life.
Yeah.
That's really what matters to you.
Obviously. Yeah.
I get what you're asking. It's a very idealistic question,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I know this is about these guys, but I just want to share a teeny little thing about my life.
That's fine.
I was a political activist for many, many years, and I fought hard for human rights. That was the thing that I was passionate about, and I was constantly fighting for it. And when we left to go travel 8 years ago, I turned off the news. I stopped not caring. I stopped being involved in the fight, and I suddenly realized that I became the peace that I was fighting for all that time. And so that was my political change, was I was being the peace in the world that I, at one point, used to fight for. It's not a life for everybody, but I believe I'm contributing more now as a peaceful human being, you know, on my path than I was in the system.
Trying to make it happen.
And I would greatly say that he's learned a lot of that from the example of me being his mom. So he's going to find his own path too. But I love that he's, you know, passionate about having ownership over his own reality. That to me is really powerful.
I think part of it is a voting problem. I mean, like.
It's just so sad to me that that's what our country's become. And
No, I mean, like,
right there.
specifically, the type of voting we have is like what, like, in the top 3 worst types of voting you can have. First past the post has been shown to just destroy any third party that wants to be a part of it, and it leads to a 2-party system. I think we should need to. I think one of the main changes is just not have first past the post voting.
Well, all those problems you just stated actually stem from the U.S. voting system, from not being democratic, but being from oligarchic. You know, we don't actually have a democracy. You know, it's completely an oligarchy. So it all comes down to corporation power.
No, yeah, change it to one person's vote to one person, and
exactly
take out first past the post.
Yeah.
Change it to something like 3 person's choice.
If you made me think that my vote matters, then I would feel inclined to vote. But I don't believe that my vote actually matters. So I would rather just go on with my life and
They've kind of proven that it doesn't. I mean, they had a video of someone that went into a courtroom and he admitted to an entire courtroom that it was bugged. They had been either paid off or had voted by themselves that he was going to get kicked out regardless. And he would have won over Hillary, but because of that, she's still in, and he's out.
I think the problem stems back a little bit further than,
yeah.
a lot further actually than just this election. You know, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
There's multiple instances of it every year.
But this is the one that's happening now, so.
And then what about like a write-in or something? Would you consider that like a third party?
I would be more inclined to vote for third party. Although at that point, it's basically the
they
same
just get
thing
shut
as
down.
simply
They don't-
removing yourself. It comes back to the whole mindset of people telling you, well, your vote doesn't matter. If you are voting for a third party, you're throwing your vote away.
But I think a more open voting system is if people are too scared that their preferred candidate, not the one they want, but their preferred over the other one, will not get voted in if they don't vote for them, so they don't vote for third party, which is the one they actually want.
Right.
It's a tactic. It certainly is a manipulation tactic. Yeah, there's a couple more questions. Is it okay if we move on, guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And actually, Jim had his hand up
Well,
first.
mine's a slightly
Oh.
different topic, so if you had something relevant to
Sure,
this.
I was just going to say that this idea of kind of taking yourself out of the system is very similar to the unschooling mindset in general. I think we're taking ourselves out of the schooling system rather than trying to change the system. And as more and more people are stepping out, it's becoming apparent to even more people that there's a problem with the system, and reform is starting to happen, right?
Exactly.
So perhaps that's something that could happen politically as well.
Change is happening by stepping away.
Do you feel that you need to encourage others to make that step and to enlighten other people, or do you just feel that's what you're doing for your family?
I was just making an observation.
Off my back, Rita.
And I just want to add, perhaps by me stepping away from the system, perhaps by me walking my own path, maybe I will pave the way for another to do the same. You know, maybe my lifetime I will affect how somebody else lives their life. So
that is a perfect segue to my question, which is, given your experiences, and it sounds like a lot of you have had some interactions with other people that are in public schools, maybe more of your interactions are with other homeschoolers or adults or the general population, whatever you want to call it. Have you ever tried to help somebody that you knew become unschooled? Have you ever tried to help break people out of school? And if you have, what has been your experience? Because I look at it like, if you're trying to make a difference and make a change, in your positions, you are kind of the best people to help do that kind of thing. Maybe your parents do. But has that ever happened to you, that you've tried to help somebody get out of school and it's succeeded or it's failed, or what kind of experience did you have
I've
with that?
encouraged the idea when people ask me about it, but no, I don't think I've ever specifically tried to get my friend out of schooling, mostly because I only have a few that do go to school.
Yeah, I've never pushed anybody towards it on my own. I do get a lot of questions about it though, and I give my opinion on both sides of it. I know some people that prefer the situation of being in school, so I'm not going to say that this is the only way to do it, because I don't genuinely believe that. I believe everybody has their own way that's going to be best for them. But I did have a girl approach me once. She couldn't hear very well out of her one ear, so she said being in school was very hard for her because she couldn't keep up in class, because she couldn't hear the teacher most of the time. And she was interested in the idea of homeschooling, but she never had anybody to ask. So of course I gave her my opinions on it, but there was another girl in the class that said, well, I think if you go and you start homeschooling, that's going to make you dumb, because you're not going to be learning as fast as everybody else. But she's learning at her own pace, so that's easiest for her. So I think she does homeschool now. I encouraged her to. I told her groups that we were in. I gave her resources that she could, look to kind of get into it without too much trouble. And her parents were all for it. So I think it's just about helping people that want it. Not, like you said before, the word enlighten bothers me only because I feel like usually when people use the word enlighten, they're using it like, well, I'm going to enlighten you because my way of learning and thinking and living is the only way that it should be. I don't think that's true. I don't know if that helped at all, but that was just what came to mind for me.
Yeah, I definitely used to be that guy who was like, all my school friends were just like, no, like, you've got to do it this way. Look at all the problems that you're having because you go to school. And they're just like, shut up.
Yeah, I've never tried to force anybody out of school. I've never been like, oh, get out of public school. It's terrible. It's a crap system. I've never really done that before. People have asked me about it, and like Gianna said, I've answered their questions. They're like, oh, what's homeschooling? And I'm like, oh, it's this. You just go to school at home and do school in your pajamas and wake up at 12 in the afternoon. It's great. You should try it if you want. And some people, I know this one girl, she's like, I don't really think that's the thing for me because I enjoy having all my friends here. I don't think I'd make as much friends if I was homeschooled. And so I was like, yeah, I mean, you still make friends, but that's your choice, so I'm going to respect that, and we can both go on our separate ways.
I think that the most I can say is that maybe I've never directly, I have encouraged people, but maybe I've never directly told somebody like, yeah, this is what I think, this is what you should be doing, but I've also never hesitated to state my belief. And I've never hesitated to say what I think is true. And how harsh that might seem to certain people living within that system, you know, that's still my belief, and it's something that I will not, I don't know, almost like I won't censor myself around people. Like, if there's somebody in the school system, I'm going to say what I think about it, and that's that. So that's just where I fall on that.
Any other questions?
I think we're almost out of time.
Okay. Well, please join me in giving this fabulous panel